fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullfine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece that's been generating some serious buzz. Sarah, this one's got layers and some surprises that are going to make farmers rethink how they've been approaching calf housing.
Especially in those colder regions.
Right. Yeah, particularly in cold weather regions.
That's right. We are absolutely targeting, well, the fundamental decision facing every dairy producer.
Yeah.
How do you house your replacement stock? I mean, for decades, the default answer was the individual hutch. Simple.
Plain simple, yeah.
But the data we're looking at today suggests that maybe the smart money move might be a strategic pivot toward pair housing. This is no longer just a nuanced welfare debate, you know?
It's way past that now.
This is a conversation about maximizing the lifetime profitability of every single heifer born on your farm.
And this article, it really hit us at the perfect time. If you're running an operation anywhere, but especially if you're contending with those challenging climates up north, Minnesota, Wisconsin, maybe upstate New York, this decision is hypercritical right now.
Right now.
The way you manage and house your calves for those first crucial weeks is, it's literally going to shape your milk checks for the next decade.
It really is the foundational infrastructure choice. We are looking at the potential for healthier, better growing calves that convert into real, measurable financial gains down the line. But yeah, to get there, we have to acknowledge and maybe overcome decades of traditional thinking.
Exactly. For generations, the reliance on individual housing, it was seen as the gold standard for biosecurity. It felt like simple management, easy to spot the calf that wasn't drinking, and even easier to isolate a sick animal.
Sure, visually easy.
That belief system, that isolation is inherently healthier. It's become almost dogma in some parts of the industry.
But that dogma, well, it seems to be collapsing under the weight of empirical evidence. We're seeing some pretty comprehensive research and, importantly, on-farm results that directly challenge the assumption that physical isolation minimizes health problems.
Right.
This is the central controversy of this deep dive, isn't it? The long-standing belief that separation equals superior health might actually be costing you performance and profit. We need to dissect why isolation might actually be hindering, not helping, your future milking herd.
Okay, let's dig into that.
Okay, let's lay out the core issue directly for you listening. Many successful farms are holding on to solo housing despite mounting pretty compelling evidence that pairing calves delivers a superior outcome. We are actively debunking the idea that putting two calves together guarantees a disease outbreak.
Look, I understand the skepticism. I really do.
Right.
If you spent your whole career trying to minimize pathogen exposure, the idea of intentionally letting calves interact feels reckless.
Instinctively, yeah.
But if that fear of shared bugs is the only reason you're sticking to individual hutches, you're likely sacrificing long-term productivity and, maybe crucially, immune development.
And look at the solid UK research cited in the sources. This wasn't some small, contained study. It followed over 400 heifers across multiple facilities. The findings were not ambiguous, were they?
Not at all. Pair-housed calves consistently showed significantly better growth performance, particularly during that really important pre-weaning period.
Better growth is one thing. We can measure that easily with a weigh tape.
Oh, wait, but here's the kicker for the long-term farm economics, and this is what really jumped out at me. The study found those same pair-housed heifers were substantially less likely to be culled early in their productive lives compared to the individually housed ones.
That is the critical link we need to emphasize, right? It suggests that the benefits gained in the calf stage, through social learning, maybe reduce stress, and definitely improve starter intake, they aren't just temporary.
They stick around.
They create a more robust animal, apparently.
So if we follow that logic, It means we might be sacrificing the longevity and lifetime productivity of our future herd, which, let's be honest, is the biggest long-term financial driver, just for the perceived short-term management benefit of keeping them in solitude. So we have to ask, what's the physiological mechanism? What's driving that sustained superior performance in the pairs?
Well, it seems multifactorial, but a key component is resilience. Socially housed calves, because they engage in interaction and maybe some mild competition, they experience less stress when they're moved into larger groups later on, at weaning or post-weaning.
Okay, they adapt better.
They handle subsequent challenges better. They show superior feed intake, which structurally develops the rumen faster, and that makes the weaning transition less of a metabolic shock.
So the implication here, and this is a big shift, is that the housing type itself is maybe not the primary driver of disease. The real villain is environmental management. You could put a calf in a hutch, give it all the space in the world, but if that hutch is perpetually dirty, or the microclimate inside is stagnant, humid, you've accomplished nothing except isolation.
Precisely. That's why that anecdotal insight from the Wisconsin producer is so valuable. It just cuts through the theory. What was the quote?
It was something like, poor ventilation and dirty equipment spread disease faster than gossip at the feed store. Doesn't matter if the calves have company or not.
Huh. That's a perfect translation of the management challenge, isn't it?
It really is. If you have clean air, rigorously clean feeding equipment, and you are nailing your colostrum protocols and early nutrition, those foundational management practices are what determine your health outcomes.
So the focus shifts entirely from physical separation to management quality.
Right. If you are struggling with calf health, the first place you should look is probably at your air quality and hygiene, not necessarily your grouping strategy.
And for you listening, this means if you decide to transition to pairs, you aren't adopting a riskier system. You are adopting a system that simply demands superior management. You have to be on your game.
That's the key. Higher standard required.
Yeah.
Okay, so a common question that comes up, when farmers consider moving away from hutches is, if I'm going to commit to changing my system, why not just bypass pairs and go straight to large group systems?
Right. Jump all the way.
We need to challenge that idea, the notion that pair housing is just some temporary, awkward precursor.
Because the data, again, it shows that pairs often deliver the necessary behavioral and developmental benefits without introducing the systemic headaches of large, maybe heterogeneous groups.
Yeah.
We are talking about finding a true sweet spot for pre-weaning management.
Let's look at the contrarian analysis here regarding feed intake. Pair-housed calves consistently consume more calf starter. We know this is essential for rumen development, right? Getting those papilla going, transitioning the calf from basically a monogastric system to a functioning ruminant.
Crucial transition.
The paired calves, driven by maybe mild competition, social facilitation, they just eat more readily. This means they develop faster, and they seem to breeze through weaning stress much smoother than their solo counterparts.
And the physiological benefit there is huge. A smoother weaning means less metabolic lag, better daily gain maintenance, and crucially, less immune suppression caused by stress. That's often when respiratory disease flares up, right?
Exactly, that stress window.
So the socialization aspect prepares them behaviorally for competition, but the increased starter intake prepares them physiologically. It's a double win.
But here is the critical nuance, and this is the kicker from the research we really need to highlight.
Right.
Bigger is absolutely not better in this context.
Right.
If you add just a third calf, so groups of 3 or more, that's when you start seeing diminishing returns and, frankly, management difficulties. The system begins generating genuine social drama, as they put it, and dominance battles that help nobody.
That makes perfect sense, though. In a pair, it's mostly cooperative, maybe competitive in a positive way. They learn how to share resources.
Yeah.
Once you introduce a third animal, you create a hierarchy, increasing the risk of one animal being marginalized or stressed, especially around an automatic feeder.
Yeah, you can see that happening.
The benefits seem to maximize with the diet, the pair, and the complexity just ramps up exponentially beyond that.
Okay, I have to interject here as the skeptical farmer again. We are discussing northern regions. Respiratory disease is the boogeyman in cold, damp winters. It just is.
Always a concern.
If we introduce social contact, what are the non-negotiable health protocols we absolutely must nail to prevent simply doubling our pneumonia cases? Because that's the fear.
It's a practical and vital question. And again, the studies show management practices matter more than the housing type for health outcomes. The single most important factor, air quality.
Ventilation.
Ventilation. Veterinarians and engineers recommend maintaining a minimum of 20 cubic feet per minute CFM of fresh air per calf in cold weather. This standard is critical to dilute the pathogen load and minimize respiratory disease risk.
20 CFM per calf. That's a very specific, measurable target. But let's get into the technical logistics for our audience. In deep winter, how do you actually move 20 CFM of air per calf without creating a lethal draft? We can't just, crack open all the doors and windows.
No, absolutely not. That's where the technical expertise comes in. This requires precision ventilation. We are talking about positive pressure tube ventilation systems, usually designed to introduce fresh air slowly and distribute it evenly above the resting area.
Above them.
Right, preventing air stagnation without generating those high-velocity drafts right on the calf. Simply relying on passive ventilation in a paired hutch or a small group pen during winter, it's probably going to fail.
That's the management excellence required. That's the detail. And the studies reinforce this. When farms adhered to those strict ventilation and hygiene protocols consistently, whether the calves were paired or sole respiratory disease, incidence typically dropped by 30 to 40%.
30 to 40% drop.
The housing type is secondary to nailing the management.
Management first. Okay, we've established the welfare and the performance case, but now we pivot to the balance sheet because that's crucial. For an operation considering what could be a significant infrastructure investment, this has to make financial sense. We have to break down the specific dollars and cents for you listening.
Yeah, give us the hard numbers. Let's assume a typical, maybe mid to large scale 500 cow operation. They'll need to replace roughly 150 heifers yearly, give or take. How does switching to pair housing actually move the financial needle for them?
Okay, it's pretty profound, actually, and the impact is twofold. You've got revenue gain and cost savings. First, the milk production gain. The research demonstrates that pair-housed calves, on average, produce nearly 1,000 kilograms. That's about 2,200 pounds more lifetime milk. 1,000
kilograms more lifetime. Okay, now let's tie that to current market reality. If we take a conservative average milk value of, let's say, maybe 6 cents per kilogram, that 1,000 kilograms gain translates to what, $60 of additional revenue per individual heifer that calves in.
Right. Now, multiply that across your 150 replacements.
So 150 times $60.
That is approximately $60,000 in additional annual revenue for that 500 cow operation year after year. And this game isn't just about a higher peak yield either. This superior performance is typically linked to earlier maturity and better milk persistence throughout the lactation cycle.
Meaning they hold their production curve longer. Less drop-off.
Exactly.
$60,000 annually just from better performing heifers. That's a huge margin improvement right there. But that's only half the equation you said. What about replacement costs?
Right. The second major financial benefit comes from longevity. Pair-housed heifers experience about 30% fewer culls over their productive lifetime compared to the individually housed calves.
30% fewer culls. That's significant.
It really is. When we factor in the estimated, let's say, $1,500 to $2,000 cost of raising a replacement heifer to calving, that 30% reduction in culls, which equates to roughly 15 to 20 fewer culls annually for our 500 cow example, that equates to another $22,500 roughly in replacement savings.
Wow. So if we add those up, the total combined annual benefit for that farm, we're talking about $60,000 plus $22,500. That's $82,500 combined.
Annually.
Through revenue gain and replacement savings. That is the quantifiable financial case for calf companionship. That number absolutely justifies looking hard at capital expenditure.
No kidding. That's a serious return.
And the ROI timeline? It's incredibly aggressive. This isn't some long shot investment paying off way down the road. The data indicates that the full return on investment, accounting for necessary infrastructure and maybe technology, is typically achieved within about 18 months of implementation.
18 months. That's fast for a farm investment. And, I think the current market context makes this even more compelling. We've seen milk prices bouncing around, like that volatility we saw around October 2025, hovering near $17.60 per hundredweight.
Yeah, unpredictable. When margins are fluctuating wildly like that, relying on market upticks is a gamble. Investing in internal guaranteed efficiency like a system that potentially gives you $82,500 annually regardless of the milk price, that's essentially a hedge against future market instability. You're building resilience into your operation.
That's a great way to put it. It transitions from being just a nice-to-have welfare upgrade to being a core financial strategy for, weatherizing the operation against market pressures.
Exactly. Smart business. Okay, let's talk technology. Historically, one of the biggest arguments for individual housing was, the human ability to manually monitor every single calf's bucket consumption. You could see exactly who drank what.
Right, that hands-on approach felt safer to many. You knew immediately if someone didn't finish their milk.
But technology has not just caught up. You could argue it has surpassed manual monitoring, making pair housing arguably superior for early disease detection.
That's the automated feeder revolution we're seeing. These systems are far more than just fancy milk dispensers. They are sophisticated, 247 behavioral and health monitoring systems. They use transponders to track not just total consumption, but things like the calf's drinking speed, the number of visits to the feeder, the consistency of those patterns.
Okay, let's get granular on the accuracy then. How effective is this automated monitoring compared to, me or my staff checking a bucket twice a day?
The technological leap is massive. Research confirms that these systems detect illness with something like 80 to 85% accuracy up to 5 days before a human being can typically spot a visible symptom.
5 days.
5 days before you see a droopy ear, a cough, nasal discharge. Think about the immunological advantage that gives you. A nearly week-long head start on treatment.
5 days.
Okay.
That's an eternity in calf health. That early intervention capability drastically reduces the severity of illness, right? You can treat the calf when it's barely symptomatic, maybe use less medication, shorter treatment duration.
And this translates directly back to the balance sheet. Early intervention reduces treatment costs by a remarkable 40% on average, and mortality by up to 25%. So we're saving labor, reducing drug expenditure, and keeping that calf on track toward that 1,000 kilogram lifetime milk production bonus we talked about.
But okay, I have to inject some reality here. That 85% accuracy sounds fantastic in a controlled university study. But these technologies are a significant capital expenditure. Sarah, what about the real world? What's the failure rate outside of the perfectly managed university barn? What happens when water quality fluctuates, or the sensors get messy, or the power briefly cuts out during a storm? Is this 85% accuracy truly reliable on a working farm in the middle of a polar vortex?
That's a completely fair and necessary check on the hype. Yes, while the technology itself is robust, its success is fundamentally dependent on consistent calibration, maintenance, and stable power. The 85% accuracy is achieved when the standard operating procedures, the SOPs, are followed rigorously.
Which
includes routine cleaning of the feeding stations, nipple changes, monitoring the technology itself for calibration warnings. If the farm staff treats the tech with suspicion or ignores those calibration warnings or doesn't clean it properly, the accuracy quickly drops. It's not magic.
Right. And here is the crucial caveat that links this technology right back to the housing decision. This early disease detection capability, this 80-85% accuracy, it's fundamentally ineffective with individual bucket feeding.
You need the baseline behavior.
Exactly. It requires the social environment, be it pairs or small groups, to establish those baseline drinking behaviors, speeds, and consumption rates effectively. The automated feeder's primary benefit, that early warning system, is essentially lost if you stick to individual hutches.
So moving to pairs isn't just about making the calves socially better adjusted. It's about creating the necessary environment for this superior management technology to actually function and provide that competitive edge in disease monitoring.
That frames it perfectly. It's not just a housing decision. It's a whole management system decision. The housing enables the tech.
Exactly. Okay, let's transition now to maybe the painful reality of adoption. We've seen farms make this switch successfully, and we've seen others. Well, not so much. Total failures even. What is the dividing line? What makes it work or not work?
The biggest obstacle, and this comes up consistently across various studies and farm trials, isn't the cattle themselves. And it's usually not even the physical infrastructure once it's built. It's the people.
The human element.
It's the reliance on staff training, buy-in, and crucially accountability that ultimately dictates the success or failure of the paired system, especially with that automated technology.
And the warning here is stark. We've heard countless stories, haven't we, of farms where the automated feeders are dutifully beeping warnings, flagging a drop in milk consumption or a skipped feeding for a specific calf.
Yep, seen it.
But the crew, maybe due to alert fatigue, maybe lack of understanding, maybe lack of consequence, they just walk right past them. Or they hit clear without investigating.
That scenario is just heartbreaking. You have the sophisticated multi-thousand-dollar piece of technology capable of giving you a 5-day jump on illness. And without mandatory training and strict response protocols, it becomes nothing more than an expensive decoration.
Right. The farm has successfully invested in detection, but failed completely on the response protocol. and the system gets blamed.
Exactly. And this variability in success leads to another significant problem. The current state of pair housing, it really lacks standardization. We see success varying all over the map, like the sources said, because there isn't a clear, universally accepted roadmap yet.
So farms are kind of winging it.
Pretty much. Improvising with pen dimensions, grouping strategies, ventilation specifics, management approaches.
And this lack of standardization is dangerous, isn't it? Because it provides easy excuses for failure. If farmer A's system fails, they might blame the whole principle of social housing.
Right, when in reality, maybe they crammed 3 calves into a pen designed for 2, or they mixed ages carelessly, violating that 2-week rule we'll talk more about.
This is where industry leadership really needs to step up, you'd think. If we connect this to the bigger picture of industry progress, organizations need to provide that reliable blueprint. The DCHA, the Dairy Calf and Heifer Association, they already have the gold standards program for calf and heifer management.
That program is the perfect foundation. They absolutely need to develop clear certifications and standardized protocols specifically for paired and small group housing. Things like minimum pen space per calf, feeder access ratios, validated age matching criteria.
That would help producers transition confidently, wouldn't it? Significantly minimizing that costly and, frankly, confidence-damaging trial and error, period.
Definitely. And looking ahead, this transition, it aligns farms perfectly with the accelerating long-term market trend. Consolidation around efficiency and animal welfare standards, consumer pressure, regulatory pressure for improved welfare practices, it's only intensifying.
So proactively adopting systems like pair housing, it positions the farm not just for that immediate profitability boost, but for long-term social license to operate as well.
It's a dual-purpose investment, really. You're potentially securing that $82,500 annual gain we calculated, while simultaneously future-proofing your operation against potential regulatory shifts or market demands for improved housing standards.
Smart play long-term. Okay, before we move to the actionable takeaway list, we need to provide one more stern warning. If you, listening right now, are convinced by the economic case, you're likely to encounter a temptation during the transition phase, a very common one.
Oh yeah, the temptation to cut corners. Absolutely. Every single time a new housing system or technology is adopted, there's pressure, internal or external, to stretch the limits of the infrastructure, usually to save a bit on capital or maybe labor initially.
And the specific risk here is crystal clear. We have to warn against cramming too many calves into undersized pens, or mixing ages carelessly just to fill space quickly or make groups even. If you do this,
You've just shot yourself in the foot. You immediately bypass all the benefits of social development we've been talking about.
it becomes the fast track, as one source put it, the express train to disease outbreaks, and a complete loss of confidence in the paired system itself.
Exactly. If you introduce undue stress through high stocking density and unfair competition, the calves' cortisol levels spike, suppressing their immune system. You completely negate the enhanced growth benefits, and you could easily end up with worse health outcomes than you had in individual housing.
And the sources are really non-negotiable on that 2-week age matching rule. Calves should be matched within 2 weeks of age, max.
To ensure relatively even competition and minimize those dominance issues, especially at the feeder. Anything wider than that, and inevitably the larger, older calf will dominate the feeder, push the other one away.
And prevent that smaller calf from achieving the necessary starter intake for proper rumen development, which defeats a major purpose of pairing them.
That 2-week window is such a practical, farm-level, non-negotiable metric. If you violate it, the system fails. It's a classic example of a management failure being blamed on the technology or the animal itself.
So let's reiterate the core philosophical message here, coming from experts like Jennifer Van Oss at UW Extension. Pair housing isn't just about welfare. It's smart business that pays long-term dividends.
It really is. It's that optimal intersection of welfare and efficiency, potentially. The summary of benefits is clear. Enhanced growth, reduced stress, better starter intake, and significantly fewer culls, leading to that potential $82,500 annual benefit for our example farm.
But, and it's a big but,
A huge but. All of that is entirely conditional. Adherence to strict management protocols, that 20 CFM ventilation minimum, the 2-week age matching, rigorous hygiene, and robust staff training on the tech and protocols, that's the price of admission to this potentially higher level of profitability. No shortcuts.
no shortcuts allowed. Hashtag tech actionable insights segment, the takeaway list. All right, let's bring this home. Our listener is sitting in the pickup truck. Maybe they just finished morning milking. They're driving to the feed store. They've heard the ROI numbers, $82,500 annual benefit, 18-month turnaround, sounds good, but they need a checklist. What to do next? What are the 3 time-sensitive, actionable things they need to take away from this deep dive?
Okay, let's structure this into immediate, medium, and long-term actions, things you can start thinking about or doing right away.
Okay, immediate action this week. What can they do today, maybe with no major capital investment yet?
First, focus intensely on ventilation and cleanliness immediately. Don't wait for new paired infrastructure. Check your current housing system, whether it's individual hutches or something else, to ensure you are meeting that crucial standard of 20 CFM of fresh air per calf for cold weather. Use a simple anemometer if you have to. This is a zero-cost management check that can improve health outcomes right now.
Check the air first.
Good.
What else this week?
Second, review your current calf grouping protocols if you eventually plan to transition. Start thinking logistics. Ensure you have a system in place so that when you do group them, age matching is tight. Plan for that stretched 2-week maximum window of age difference within a pair. Get organized now.
Got it. 20 CFM check and plan for the 2-week rule. Okay, medium-term strategy now, say the next 3 to 6 months. How do they actually start the process?
You absolutely must start small. Don't try to convert the whole operation overnight. Plan and budget for a manageable pilot group, maybe 10 to 12 pairs to start. Focus these initial months on establishing crystal clear standard operating procedures, SOPs, for continuous monitoring of starter intake, health checks, cleaning protocols.
Get the system down first.
Get the system down. And, more critically, commit to rigorous staff training. Implement mandatory training on whatever health monitoring system you use, especially if it's automated feeders. Specifically, how to interpret the warnings and the absolute necessity for immediate, decisive action when that technology signals an alert. Remember, that expensive tech is only worth its price if your people respond instantly and correctly.
Train the team, test the system small. Makes sense. Okay, finally, long-term positioning. The next 1 to 2 years. This is where the capital commitment comes in to realize the full potential we discussed.
Right. First, truly recognize the validated potential of that $82,500 annual benefit, or whatever it calculates to for your operation size, and position your capital investment strategy toward the necessary pair housing infrastructure and automated feeding systems. Treat it as an investment with a documented rapid ROI, not just another cost center.
Frame it as an investment.
Absolutely. And second, most importantly perhaps for capturing those early detection benefits, commit fully to technology integration. You really must commit to integrating automated milk feeders to leverage that 80 to 85% accuracy in early disease detection. Understand and make sure everyone understands that this huge technological advantage remains largely ineffective with traditional, labor-intensive, individual bucket feeding systems. You need the pairing to make the tech sing.
So the message is clear. Pair housing isn't just about putting 2 calves together. It's an optimized system that marries advanced technology with superior management standards to unlock performance and profitability that isolation, frankly, just cannot achieve based on this data.
The evidence is clear, the technology exists, and the economics, well, they make perfect sense. The final hurdle really is implementation and that unwavering management commitment. Your calves and, yeah, your bank account will likely thank you.
This has been another deep dive from the Bullvine. If this kind of analysis helps your operations stay ahead of the curve, head to www.thebullvine.com for more articles that tell you what's really happening in dairy. We cut through the noise.
And seriously, subscribe wherever you get your content. We're releasing deep dives like this twice weekly now, and trust me, you don't want to miss what we've got coming next week about the unexpected impact of cow comfort metrics on culling rates. It's definitely not what you think.
See you next time.
Take care.